sort of sat down, we bounced ideas about, and we started thinking about, well, what could we do? It's something out with the kitchen. Maybe we could do something in the garden. And maybe if we had like a table set up in the garden. So what we did then was, we did the sketch. And this is something which is anybody who's doing sort of staged narrative photography. So rather than just capturing what happens to be there, like a beautiful sunset or a squirrel running up a tree or birds on a bird feeder, what you're doing is trying to create a scene. So at that point, sometimes you go into it with just half an idea, sometimes you go in with a very clear idea of what you want. And sometimes you do essentially a thumbnail sketch to get an idea of what it is you think you really want to do. And then you can refer back to the sketch to, obviously, to remind yourself as to what you're doing. So what I'm going to do for you this evening is I'm going to show you exactly how that sketch works. So bear with me a moment while I'm going to move the webcam. You might kind of feel a little bit seasick, but if you can hold on for a moment, I will just bend this down like this and show you a nice little sketch pad. So what we started off with was, you start off with the idea, well, what if we had a chair, and Meg was sort of sitting in a chair. So you kind of do a rough chair, but actually we kind of maybe what we really want is an armchair. So we've got sort of a slightly high backed kind of chair which has got the arms on it, and kind of comes down, and so we got a chair. But then we've got then of course you want Meg sitting in the chair. So so we'll have Meg here. She's got her glasses on, a smile, and so Meg's sort of sitting here, and maybe she's wearing a Megalicious apron, which has got a little logo on it, and she's got a fancy boots on, so we've got her shoes there. So we got Meg in the chair. Then we want to have the table. So we sort of have a table next to her. And then on the table we can have a cake stand, which has then got lots of lovely, slices of cake or chocolate brownies or bits of flapjack, things like that. Teapot, because Meg's also got a lovely Megalicious mug with her brand on it, so we can have a Megalicious mug sitting there, and we can have a teapot. In fact, actually, Meg could be holding the teapot, so we'll bring the arm out like this, and we'll have the teapot with the spout and the handle, and we can be pouring tea into the mug. Now, we also, while we're talking about having it in the garden, an important aspect of this was the fact that this was beginning of April and there weren't any leaves on the trees, but we knew this was going to be going out for the June issue, which is now mid-May. So rather than having trees in the background, we would have the shed. So we decided then that if we had the sort of the shed sort of somewhere here, and then kind of could have the slats of the shed. In fact, there's a window which sort of sits in sort of round about here, and then we had this idea. We thought, well, okay, fine, she's sitting there, but let's create a pile of books, like a big stack of cookery books, because this is all a really big part of Meg. So so you stick a book there and stick another book there, and and then you could sort of do this big pile of books, which would nice sort of pile up there next to the table. But then there's also, we thought, what, pots and pans. We want pots and pans. So if we stuck another chair behind the cake stand, this could be just like a little kitchen chair or something like that, but then we could sort of stack baking pans and cake tins and what have you, sort of piled up in the back like that. And then maybe we could, and then she could have like a little sort of tin or something sort of sitting in the foreground, or another book and things like that. And then, as well as the shed here, we've got a kind of brick wall background, and that's all. And there you go. So let's just pull this back up to me, roughly like give or take. Just try and wobble that about. Okay, close enough. And so we have our thumbnail sketch. Now, it has to be said that if you hadn't watched me doing that, it would probably just be a whole bunch of scribbles that makes no sense. And even if you have just watched me doing that, it probably also is a whole bunch of scribbles not making a great deal of sense. But the reality is, it doesn't have to. I mean, I could say, eat your heart out, shoe rainer, but the reality is I'm a photographer, not an illustrator. But I'm not trying to win prizes for or magazine covers with my illustrations. I'm trying to do it with my photography. So this just needs to be enough, give me enough of a sense of what's going on. And because I've sketched it out by hand, it then ends up going into my memory. Now, if this all seems a little bit unlikely, and it's sitting in a Sudoku book, because we were sitting at the kitchen table when we were chatting about it, and they're slightly out of focus because of, but that is the original sketch. Now, so that's the sketch, and then that's the final photo. If you found this useful, let your friends know and hit subscribe.